in school, or your parents may, say something to you, at some point, usually around that puberty time. And other than that, like sometimes you're like on your own to figure it out. What's right or what's normal, what's not. How do you talk to your partner about, what you're feeling and what you're going through when it's kind of like frowned upon to talk about sex and um intimacy and just communicating. So I think, and I didn't really think about it until like I became more in tune to women's health and becoming a pelvic floor provider and learning more stuff myself, as in what's normal for a woman's period or when they're having penetrative intercourse and things like that. There should not be pain and things like that. And we don't know what we don't know, and so I think it's good to start having this conversation and letting people know and like what resources are out there available for them to seek help if they need it, so that we can, have a joyful, life. I think it's a good conversation to have. And this is going to be like hopefully the first of many more that, we can have here out in the community through workshops and things like that, just to get the word out for people to have better lives. So we had a couple questions on the Facebook group, and I'm going to start with the first one from that, and that would be, what are some ways to find day-to-day connection with your partner during busy schedules?
Yeah, so a few notes on like some of the things you have said. Sometimes it's not even just puberty, right? Even going back to being little, is like how the friends held you, how was the physical contact with you as you're growing up? Are we naming the parts by their name, right? We have arms, we don't have wiggly things, right? But we have the thing between the legs, right? Like even from when we're little, we're starting like investing in that. And as a parent now, you can look at it like, how do I approach these conversations with my child? Like, do we have to? I had one parent who was like, well, we need to kiss and hug our family members, even if you haven't seen them in 20 years. To me, that was always kind of gross, but I always felt like I had to, right? So even when things that are not sex adjacent in our usual normal conversation, they really are. So little by little, we learn that these things are not things we talk about. And as we grow older, so sex is something that you do, not something that you talk about. And we have a lot of this idea that if I talk about it, then it's not going to be exciting. Then I already know what's going to happen or whatever, or I feel so uncomfortable talking about it that I'd rather suck up the pain than tell my partner, no, I can't do this. And it's a little bit scary how long some people wait, like holding on to their pain because they have to get through it, because maybe this, maybe that. And sometimes they don't even know where to go. Because like you said, they don't know that it should not hurt. Like I think we have normalized, even in the, in the fitness industry, no pain, no gain kind of thing. And we have normalized feeling in pain. Very often, I like to say, like, sometimes we don't even pay attention to our bodies until they're screaming, right? Until the pain becomes so much that you really can't get yourself through it. And a lot of resentment cells built in there, and the feedback loop of like your body knowing this is gonna hurt, and then it tense, making it worse, right? At some point, it had what could have been an easy fix, approaching it from a medical perspective, then it becomes a very convoluted, complicated case, only because we waited and waited and waited. A few ways to talk to the partner about that is just trying to grow in a checking conversations that are sometimes they're like, we can look at how each of our schedules are, like when do we have time? And time can be like, we both work in the mental health field. So some days are very, very long, emotionally draining. Sometimes people are great and we're celebrating the games, and other days, like, things happen and we just cry together for an hour. Sometimes our check-in is, hey, are you okay? Okay, I need to go take a shower and I need quiet. Sometimes it's understanding, when do you need a transition from whatever you're doing. So when you come together, you're coming together. You're not coming with your mind all monkey mind kind of thing. You're talking to me, but I'm blank. Or you're talking to me and I'm getting pissy at you because I had a long day. I smell and whatever it is. It's really looking at what your life rhythm is like and when can you do small things often. And maybe we can, especially if you just had a baby, or you, my kids are 9 and 5 and we homeschool. So like we have kids all the time with us. It's very hard to find like time that is uninterrupted. Sometimes it's doing a small thing. Sometimes it's sending a message, or it is having a fun conversation. I have found that having a fun conversation on our way home so we can process the day. But then by the time we get home, work is done. I want to already talk about my work day and I'm done, right? We're not bringing people into our space. There is a psychologist that talks about creating a couple bubble, creating a kind of sort of psychological space where there's only two of you and you're prioritizing that relationship, creating small moments, creating times when maybe it could be just a coffee check-in, right? Like if there's kids that if they're sleeping at a certain time, like trying to be more intentional. Because sometimes we fill our time with doom scrolling on social media. If you had time for that, you had time to talk to your partner too. Sometimes it can be sending one of those little gifts on Facebook Messenger. Like sometimes it can be just like it can be something very small. Finding times when you can count on them. If this is new to you, like this is something you're trying to get started, don't say, I have had people say, okay, so our ritual is going to be that way every morning going to walk to this coffee shop. You're not going to go from 0 to every day. Like that is not realistic. If you have kids who are always on you, be realistic. Even if you don't have kids, you have work, you have whatever it is. Finding good transitions, finding good small moments to spend together, even if it's just a little bit, but a little bit that is intentional, a little bit that you're present, a little bit that you're actually listening, you're actually here. It's different than we're together all the time but we are on our phones and not really paying
Right.
attention.
Yeah. Those are good points about the your day and like making sure that you can be mentally like present and not. For me, for years I worked in the nursing home, and then like when COVID hit, it became very stressful. Like when I came home and I was carrying like all this stuff, all this anxiety, all this like mental stuff on me. But then I was carrying it through like to my kids and my husband and everything because my system was just over like stimulated, and I was like up to here and I didn't know how to like down regulate, myself to not start like snapping at everyone and everything. I was unbearable sometimes to be around because I didn't know how to. I was overstimulated and I could not just calm myself down. Finding what activities or whatever is best for you, if it's taking a bath or if you have a hot tub, or if you just want to take a walk either in the morning or in the evening, if that brings you joy and helps you regulate yourself. Just whatever those little things are. Sometimes conversation is good, but just physical touch, like non-sexual physical touch, like holding hands or just being near each other, giving a hug. Those are simple, easy ways to provide you and your partner with that connection and touch that, doesn't have to necessarily be like, in the bedroom or sexually motivated. Those are, and the not going from like nothing to planning every day, because that's hard with anything like exercise and everything. You have to start building that. And I feel like you need to make sure that the other person is kind of on board with it too. It should be like, oh, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And then come together to be like, what can we do? What's a good time when you feel about doing this or working in this situation out? Maybe putting the phones away is one good first step to. We do that at my home, at breakfast. We have breakfast and dinner, like every day you sit down and it's just like getting the phone away. We're like on the phones and then we might be talking at each other about what we're like looking at, Technology is like good for a lot of things, but it's definitely has brought down our communication skills and our ability to communicate and just have that intimacy with one another. another through conversation and stuff.
It also makes you miss the face-to-face interaction. I think a lot of times when we think about communication, we're thinking about blah, 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 blah. But really, most of our talking, we get misunderstood most of the time. Communication is not perfect. It doesn't matter if you're following the best skills ever. It's really our body language. And very often, especially if you live a busy life, right? Sometimes your time together is while one gets something ready and the other one is doing whatever and whatnot. And we're missing that face to face, head to chest, knee to knee time together, right? Where we're actually seeing your face. We're having a difficult conversation, but I'm also doing something else. I'm not realizing when I say something and your face changes. I'm not realizing when I'm losing you. So very often when I'm working on communication, I don't work with these are skills or this is how you should say it. It's like, okay, so when you're doing this, how's your breath? Can you notice your fist clenching, your jaw? Can you notice any sensations in your body? Because that's coming up when you're talking or when you're needing to, this became too much, I need to leave the argument or whatever it is. So we think about communication and talking, but it's a whole body experience. I think the phone has taken a lot from us in that. I don't want to blame technology only on that, but we have missed that integrated connection with I am with you with my whole self. I'm not with you listening, but looking. And there's definitely a lot of good apps for couples. I can link a few in the comments so anybody who wants to check them. But face to face is so important. Actually being there, knowing that when I'm talking, you're listening, not like there's a laughing response because you saw a meme on the way.
So important. The next question was, how does postpartum or the postpartum period affect intimacy with our partner, and how can we reconnect or talk to them about what's going on? This can, also apply to women as we change through to that, perimenopause, menopause period as well.
Yeah, I think obviously we're all different. We all go through different things. Some of us got with both of my kids, I got to stay at home and still it was a different experience with each of them. But I can say that one of the things, but obviously your body's changing, you're exhausted, you're not sleeping, you're in pain. Everything in your body feels super gooey and weird. That's just part of it, especially in the first few weeks. You're sleep deprived. Once when you have kids, once you get the rhythm, they get a growth spurt and then they change. Like they're nothing stays the same. If you're handling other kids too, you're always being touched. I got to breastfeed with both of them. So I had a baby in my arms for years. At some point, you're like, I don't want you to touch me. I don't want anybody to touch me. I'm done. So the amount of touch I can handle today. For some time, especially with my second one, I needed to, as soon as my husband came home, give him the kids, go to the bathroom, turn the lights up, and take a shower with the lights off. I needed that sensory deprivation, silence, no one touching me. I will say that is one. You may also find yourself breathing your body. I found something very interesting that someone saying if you had a teenager who is going through puberty or had just, gone through it, you wouldn't say, when are you getting your body back? No, now you're someone else. Now you're rediscovering yourself. You're rediscovering what your comfort zone is. You're rediscovering what feels good. When I was done breastfeeding, I feel like I got my boobs back, right? Like my boobs were not as sexy anymore. They were just a dispenser for somebody to drink constantly or play with. So it was very different in that process when I was breastfeeding. If you touch me, my milk is kind of leak. Kind of puts you back into mom mode. I mean, for some people, it's a thing, sure. That's for them. Understanding that things are shifting, right? You may be more sensible in different places. You may have a difficult time turning on. And this is not just the mother, right? Sometimes the other person is the one that's staying home. So maybe it's not necessarily genderized. Like obviously, if you're carrying the baby and whatnot, like there's some body and physiological changes happening. But this may be the same for anybody. It's hard to turn off the I need to listen for my kids. What if they wake up? But what if they open the door? Or what if they hear us? Blah blah blah. Like there's a lot of things I need to do to get them ready for tomorrow because the oldest one is going to school. There's a lot of floating thoughts. It's hard to turn that off to be able to be here. So understanding that that is a curve. There's a sex model that says good enough sex, right? Sex is not gonna be mind blowing every single time. Sometimes it's just like, okay, we did it. What is it that you're looking for when you want intimacy or when you want a sexual experience? Your answer may be different any day. Maybe you want to be touched, you want that sensation, or maybe you want to feel wanted and sexy again, or maybe you want to not feel alone, or you want to forget that you has spit on you all day. Obviously, I haven't gone through it. I'm pretty young myself, so like I only speaking from books or from clients who have shared their experience with me. I love it when people are like, I refuse to accept that it is only downhill from here because sex is not your biggest sex organ is your brain, right? It's like, what is our mind into? What am I deriving pleasure from? Pleasure is not just sex. There's many other ways to experience pleasure. So maybe sex is not an option right now, especially if we're going through any kind of for therapy or things like that. Maybe penetrative sex is not an option. But there are many other ways to experience pleasure, to experience sharing things with your partner that do not include that. Trying to be more adding priority to it. And trying to understand when I want sex, this is what I'm looking for today. Right.
Mhm.
To be dominant, or I'm looking to not make any choices. I need you to take charge because I had to take charge all day at work or with kids or whatever. Maybe I don't want to think anymore. I just want to surrender and do nothing. Really trying to get clear. And again, this is not, you're not going to get clarity if you're not talking and thinking about it, right? Where we need to pay attention to these things. We can't just, if you want a good sex life, if you want a good relationship, you need to pay attention to it and you need to keep going. And what is this? And why is that? How does that make me feel? And what sensations do I feel when this happens? A lot of the things I do is one that what you said is like non-sexual touch, but when people start having difficulties in their sex life, then there's often stop touching. The best foreplay is at the end of the last orgasm. We think of foreplay as I do this to turn you on and then we have sex. There's a lot of problematic things with that, and having a very rigid definition of what counts as sex limits you in enjoying a wide variety of pleasure that may be available to you. If you're only touching to request sex, then I'm like, I don't want you to touch me at all because I don't want you to get a wrong impression. I don't want you to think that I am open to have sex tonight. I don't want to turn you on and then not be able to continue this. So I better back off. No touch. There are some people who are like, I don't feel comfortable undressing in front of you anymore. Like they don't change their clothes in front of their partner anymore just because they want to avoid any sort of sexual signals to them. Because sex has become this minefield. Eventually, there's always in a couple someone who want more sex than the other. That's very common. But then it becomes when we're not having sex, we notice it more and the difference feels even wider. Sex becomes a minefield and touch goes. Suddenly we are snapping at each other about little things that wouldn't even better because we don't have those hormones that are keeping us together, nurturing a bond where it's not just we're married. We have a physiology that tells us this is your person. And when I'm close to this person, I feel safe. I feel relaxed. I feel connected and I can lower my stress hormones and I can increase my bonding hormones. But if we're not having any sort of closeness, our body is saying, oh no, survival mode, we have a problem. There's too big of a distance here. Finding little ways so you can bridge that gap. Like you said, sexual touch that is still loving, that is still present. I like to say, okay, if you feel like you're recoiling, can you notice what do you feel when your partner comes to give you a hug? I like it. I just don't like it when they do it from behind. Sometimes it's such a simple fix. I don't like to use the word fix because my clients are not broken.
Yeah, finding time to connect and communicate what you like and what you don't like or how you're feeling is important. I think sometimes the longer your relationship goes on too, sometimes that becomes hard over your lifespan because of hormones, work, child age, other medical things going on. You change. There's ebb and flows during your lifetime. When you were young in the relationship, it is a lot different than when you're more mature, down the road with your relationship. Being able to have those conversations in that time with your partner, and because you know that you're safe and that love and trust is there, that you can say, hey, I've been really tired, so I'm needing this from you before we have intercourse tonight. I need some just for you to pay attention to me. That's all I need. That's my turn ons tonight. Just learning how to communicate or just setting time and doing something fun. We forget that besides the kids, or even if you don't have kids with the work and stuff going on, have fun and don't get lost. Remember what it was like. I've done a lot of self reflection lately because I am in that perimenopause way. And we've been married 21 years now. You kind of reflect back, mainly just because my body's changing. My hair, I do not like myself right now. I don't feel like I'm sexy or desirable because I don't like myself because of all the changes. And I'm like, this really sucks. I want to be 10 years ago, like situation. It's hard. I'm, having to learn to be like, okay, well, what's going to make me feel good about what I look like right now? What am I wearing? How am I doing my hair? Am I working out so I feel strong? My muscles have definition. I don't feel too soft. Things like that. Just, to make myself feel better so I'll be, desirable because, that fear is, if you lose that desirability, it's kind of sad. Like you think about these things as you age, or even sometimes after, after the postpartum period, that's a time where you're having those difficulties because there's so many changes. And am I getting my body back? And I don't feel the same. I don't, you have these, ebb and flows throughout your, lifespan, as a woman, sometimes it's hard still for me to talk to my husband about, those things like, don't want to have anything to do with you today. I don't, but that's me. The longer that goes on, then I'm like, okay, there is a disconnect and a problem, and I don't want that. We need to find ways to come back together. Is it going to the theme parks without the kids? So we can be a couple. I've seen this a couple of times. The kids are great. You're the family unit, but they shouldn't come before you as a couple because that's the foundation and the building block of the family. Always coming back to that foundation and what you need to do to keep that. So, um, any other parting words or thoughts?
I can add to what you just say. The person I mentioned that teaches about the couple bubble, he likes to teach the couple is a survival unit, right? We are trying to work together to survive in this crazy ass world. When we're not like, and I can see it, when we're not like in a good place, you can see how it takes away from other areas of your life because you're spending energy in that. And if it's not, I have had to do sessions where we're like, okay, so is a divorce, is this separation, like, is that the way to go for us, right? Is this no longer, we have tried things, maybe it's a deal breaker. Is it a deal breaker, right? If it is, then okay, so we're parting ways. That's okay. Like, sometimes that's what we need to happen. But if we decide to get together, then don't do it halfway. We're either fooling in or we're not. It can't be just we're sort of here. Something I would like to add with the spending time together is like even if it's just 3-5 minutes, it's no to-do list talk. Because I find like very often, even when we have time alone, then we start talking, yeah, we need to pay this, we need to buy this, the kids need these things, blah, 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 blah. No to-do list talk.
Politics either. No polarizing talk.
Luckily we align enough in most of our values, so that's not like a big for us. I think that's maybe why I don't even think about it. But yeah, definitely, no, it's a time that's just for you. Hey, talk about something fun or interesting or whatever. How often do you get to see your partner just in their element? Which is something that you miss. Like, we don't have family here. We don't really do much babysitter or anything like that. So like, it's very hard to find time when like you get to date, right? I think sometimes we get together and we stop dating. If that's not an option to go out, you don't need to go out to date, right? You can, if you have screen time, have the kids watch a movie and do something else in the kitchen with your partner. There are ways to get creative and do it as long as you are actually, again, okay, we are fully committed in making this work. These are the changes we want to see. We want to play, we want to explore like kinks. Or we have been 20 years and we have never done this thing. Why don't we do it? Right? Why don't we try it out? And that's a work that I love doing, helping couples who are new to kink or are wanting to explore BDSM. And I don't know where to start. I don't know what questions to ask. Like, where do we begin? Like, I love doing that. I think obviously, right. I think one of the biggest differences between your professional and mine is like I'm hands off, right? And I'm not checking anyone, I'm not touching anyone, but there's a lot of questions. Where's your mind going when we think about these things? What is your mind connecting to? Sometimes it's just getting to ask the right questions, truly being curious about your partner's world, I would say.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I so appreciate your time today. I hope that everybody got some good value out of our talk today. And hopefully we can do this again just to bring information and help to women out there so that they can have the resources that they need to help them and their partners. If you have other questions or whatever, Aina is in our group. You can always comment below after this video is posted. If you want to DM us, we can get that information out to her so that you can connect if you have questions that might be sensitive, you don't want to have out there and for the world to see. We can get that to you. And I appreciate your time coming to speak to us. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good one.